It is January 9th, Friday, 1 a.m. Just came off of work and I decided to record a quick video. I should have recorded like a week ago, started recording a week ago, but or I should have recorded a bit earlier, but it is what it is. I decided that I wanted to, I guess, start doing these kinds of videos probably once a day. Just see where my mind is. Let my mind currently go amidst, But I my mind has been everywhere, obviously, throughout the past couple of days. I broke up with Misha 4 days ago. I want to say the full breakup. Technically didn't have the title anymore January 2nd, but we fully broke up January 5th, and it's getting fairly difficult, you know what I mean? But it's really hard to pinpoint my feelings because I've talked about it with a lot of people so much. It just, my mind becomes everywhere, But I cried this morning. Not a huge tear jerker, but tearing up a little bit. But at earlier points in the breakup stage, you know what I mean. And this is still fairly early, but like first few days in, especially as an emotional person, it's just it was fairly hard for me. That's one thing I won't really get twisted, but it's just been getting slowly but surely easier. But I still have thoughts, and I still reminisce, and I still kind of explode, like texting and whatnot. But it's definitely become not easier per se, but feelings have definitely like diluted. But it's like I said, it's a slow process, and I'm starting to take this time to really find who I am. And I I've spoken to many people about this whole situation, and not even in the sense of gossiping or bad mouthing, but if, like, I do want to get my point out there. I also want to share the story in the sense of wanting to have other people's opinions, see what they think. And it's definitely become something that I'm afraid will turn on me, you know what I mean? Especially like we had an incident like a year ago, or technically 2 years ago, and it took a toll, at least on me. Even throughout the whole relationship, it took a toll, and I don't really want to get too deep into it, but it became something that had always been on the back of my mind, quote unquote gossiping. And it just became a focal point in my life where I didn't want to gossip. But this whole point of this video is, to record my journey of the healing process. I mean, like I said, it's gonna be a slow process. It's gonna take a long time for me to fully actually heal. But it's the whole basis, at least for this video, is where my thoughts really line up and land in terms of like how I feel, you know what I mean? But this video is gonna revolve around wondering if she even cares. The main reason as to why I don't think she cares is obviously, since I'm not in no contact with her, it's just more so how am I supposed to know? You know what I mean? You're just assuming, and like, I fully understand and I fully get that. You know what I mean? But it definitely becomes a focal point, at least where I am, especially when I'm giving time to myself and thoughts fully, like, I guess you could say, like, run through. But it's merely because of the fact that, at least where my current mindset is, and where like how my thoughts are currently are, and hearing it from other people, and obviously, especially knowing, just me as a person, and hearing words, her words don't hold true unless you see actions, actual actions that support said words. But you know in terms of, I guess, knowing or not knowing how she feels, it's merely because of the fact that, I guess, revolving around the whole situation, it long story short, and if people were to see this video, because it's going to be on a public account, if people were to see this video, it's going to sound bad, and until you know the full extent of the story, you're only going to take my word for what it actually is. But at least to my knowledge, I'm sure she's hanging out with her new friend, and I want to say the main reason as to why we broke up, you know, at least for me, and I don't want to make it seem like it's wrong for me to assume, or like, I don't know how to put it, but maybe I'm assuming that she's healing differently, but at least where my mind is now, and obviously it doesn't go for every person out there, but at least in terms of how I'm viewing the situation, it it kind of feels like she doesn't have any room to heal because she already has that person that is, quote unquote, letting her heal or being there while she heals, quote unquote. Because for me, it's like it's kind of funny because my last relationship ended this way, and if anyone were to see this video, it would be like, oh, you got bit by your own ass, you know what I mean? Or you got bit, you got bit by the snake that fed you. I guess that's how that saying goes. But it came back to bite me in my ass, and I'm facing the consequences of my actions, and I take accountability. I take all the guilt and all the shame, and obviously, as to where it stands, it's kind of like, you deserved it. And um things do get a little heavy as time goes on. you know um if I weren't recording this video, I'd probably be sulking and crying, but I found a way to fully, not fully, because moments of crying are always gonna happen, but you know like I said, the main basis of, um I guess, this whole video is really wondering if she is even in pain. I ask my friends this all the time, because of the fact that, I am hurting, you know, and hurting is a part of the healing process, but it's step one, hurting. Hurting can differ from crying and anger and other emotions, but lately it's been a bit of anger, I will say, but sadness is also there. But the main basis is obviously sadness, But, it becomes so weird because, at least knowing that I'm hurting, I wonder if she's hurting too. She was the one to break things off in the first place, so it's kind of like, I can see why you're not hurting, because of the fact that she is in that, I guess I want to say, relief stage. This isn't an easy thing to go on about, especially knowing that she loved me very deeply. She's in that relief stage where it's like, this weight is off my shoulders, But, it's obviously, I'm not trying to say that I wish her pain um and hurt, it kind of feels weird that I'm hurting and she is not. At least that's where my mind currently stands. Um, it becomes different. Like, I mean, like I said, like, I've, at least throughout the the ending part of our relationship, I did say that I was striving for change. I was striving to be a different person than I once was, and it was also like I gotta tell myself this, and obviously it's I guess you could say an imagination, but you know, I told myself that by the time she comes back, I would be a completely different person. I went cold turkey with nicotine. I started eating 3 times a day. I went to the gym, went on runs, and it's becoming it was becoming like something so great, like at least becoming a better person instead of rather, I guess, attacking the main issue, which in turn I did believe that going through all of those would attack the core issue, but then again, I feel like that's just something that, like I said, it's only an imagination or it's a fantasy. But I, that was just the whole basis of, I guess, like my whole day. I mean, today I woke up, dropped my dad off. I did sleep a lot today. I slept for like 4 hours. I went out with my boy Scott. He got me some alcohol, not to spiral, but just to chill and relax. Went to Target to get protein powder, a new cup, and then some milk. Trying to gain them gains, them muscles, but you know, and then had some takeout, and then I went to work. I talked about the situation with my coworker, and now I'm here. But it's it's becoming fairly heavy on me. Like I can't lie, you know. But it's like I said, it's all really a part of the healing process. I will say that um I will say that it's gotten easier, and I'm glad I can say that. Um, I've been praying to God recently. I've been praying for Him to give me guidance and strength, and I'm also praying for her. At the end of the day, I pray that God gives His daughter a like strength and guidance throughout a hardship such as this one. This isn't an easy hardship to go through. It requires a lot of effort and a lot of strength to go through this. And as of now, it doesn't feel like strength. It doesn't feel like effort. It's more so letting the feelings pass, which I think I reiterated to my friend when he when he was going through his heartbreak. And I gotta practice what I preach. It just becomes so different because of the fact that I did not think that it would happen to my ex and and it's still kind of baffling to call her my ex. I did have hopes and dreams of taking her far, but as it currently stands, I think I'm gonna be okay. And yeah, this marks the first video. Thoughts kind of ran everywhere. It's my first video, but we'll see how everything goes.